welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today we have on KMFDM's leader, Sascha. Sascha is the vocalist, synth, multi-instrument, drums, bass, probably main songwriter, and always mainstay from the very, very beginning. And you guys are approaching what, 30? Is it 39 years now or 40? Pretty close.
Yeah, I think it's coming on 39 years in next month.
Holy moly! Could you think when you started that you would be in a band 39 years down the road? That
No,
sounds
absolutely
crazy.
not. I mean, I had no idea what was going to happen, but like a lot of coincidence, a lot of basically sheer luck, and being at the right time at the right place. That was the recipe.
It is. As a longtime fan, I've been aware of the storied career and the back and forth, and it's been interesting. I think you've had some great players with you, which has allowed the band to continue to flourish and be interesting through the years, and not limited you to being stale. The fact the energy and the songs are so powerful, and this is heavy as before. Back in the day when you think of being 40 years on, it's not going to be rocking as hard. You guys are probably actually, some of your songs are heavier than they've ever been on these past couple albums.
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
Which is, fantastic. It's,
Yeah, well, that's the way it worked out. It's not so much really planning everything. It's kind of just going with the flow and seeing where it takes you.
And you've had some very good relationships with some of your other musicians through the years. And I think the idea of having a revolving cast with a couple of mainstays has really been, one of the big reasons why the band stays so relevant through the years. And it's probably one of the few standing right now of that time period, waving the flag without becoming a brand or anything else. You're true to who you were, which is quite honorable.
Right. That was a hard piece of work, really, to maintain that, because obviously in the sort of mid '90s, labels were trying to grab up bands of the industrial, so to speak, genre left and right, and it was really difficult at some point to make certain decisions, because I always thought I need to stay true to what I want to do, and not to go for a quick buck and then be sort of shut up like a rocket and then burn out and destroy. So that was really difficult, because obviously when there's a lot of money kind of in the offers, some people go like, why don't we take the money and run? And I was always like, nah, let's just let's do our
it's
thing.
hard.
And
because you have to pay bills, and there's something wrong with an artist making money. In fact, I think artists should make more money. I think they should do whatever they want with their stuff. But I agree, the fans are hard, the industry's hard. They want to make your product. The fans want you to stay true and be their favorite small band. But an artist has to pay for health insurance, bills, food, touring. So the artist gets put in a weird spot. You get too successful, then you're a sellout. You know what I mean? So somehow you guys have managed to kind of keep that balance.
Yeah, I mean, the main reason for that is because KMFDM never was a band like you imagine a band, like, with a sort of agenda and a rehearsal space and kind of, I don't know, regular meetings and sort of jamming together. It was always like a project kind of driven type of thing. So,
and for people, I'm sorry. Continue.
From the very beginning, we had a open door policy. So whoever kind of happened to come by the studio, or someone we met, they would be invited to partake in an album cycle or on a tour or whatever. It was just like let's keep it lively and interesting, rather than become this band where everybody says, the vocals aren't too loud, aren't loud enough, the drums aren't loud enough, and all this kind of shit. So yeah, that was really always the sort of the undertow behind the whole thing.
Definitely a very at will job employment, as they call it nowadays, is the buzzword. You can come and go at will.
Right.
You don't like it, you can just leave. You don't have to like everything. You can take a break.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
And that's pretty healthy. And especially for back then, that's not how it was, And there were a lot of good bands that came out, but I think what's great is like a lot of bands got bigger, and I think a lot of bands, and I'm not going to name any names because it's not cool, but I think a lot of bands copied your sound on some level and got really, really big. And some of their bigger albums in the 90s, kind of was your sound actually. I was like, I heard that before on this album by KMFDM before, which was kind of interesting. But I'm glad to see your band is still going as strong. So I mean, in the end, it worked out well. For people that don't know,
yeah,
I mean, you guys have been around, and you started out as actually in the, I'm not gonna do a real brief beginning, way back in '84, as just as a performance project with other musicians loosely based. I do want to say something you said in one of your videos. You mentioned that you actually got involved in because you were driving a bunch of drunk musicians to a performance. I love the idea of that's how you fell into it.
yeah. That's exactly how it was. They were artists, like sculptors and painters and
Yeah.
whatnot, and they had been invited to Paris, France, to participate in the opening of a show about then kind of relevant European art, whatever.
Mhm.
And they were like totally drunks, all of them. So they, they said, hey, would you drive us to Paris? And I was like, I was totally straight edge, and I was like, yeah, sure,
Yeah.
sure, I'll drive you to Paris if you pay me a hotel room.
Yeah.
And as we drove and talked, and some of the guys were like, so you're a bass player? And I'm like, yeah, kind of. I'm a bass player on and off. And they said, how about we rent like some equipment and you make some noise for the opening of this performance? I was like, sure, And as it was, there was a music store, and right next to it there was a sort of a junk store, and so we rented a bass amp and a bass guitar, and then we looked into the junk store to see if we could find some noise making kind of tools or something, and they had a bunch of vacuum cleaners for dirt cheap. So we just bought like 7 vacuum cleaners, and created a sound installation that was just droning and the feedbacking bass, and it was pretty ugly stuff actually. And people didn't really seem to stay very long at the opening of that exhibit. So we were just thinking about a motto for the day, and it came up to be no pity for the majority. And of course, that was way too straight up, so it became no majority for the pity, and that kind of stuck.
That is great. And I thank you for sharing that. I'm sure you've told that story probably a billion times, but I'm hoping to expose new people that don't hear this and are overwrapped in years of the internet and not catching the full history of this band. They should be aware of, because this is when there wasn't all these other bands and all these other sounds and noise. This is the very beginning where people are like, this is insane. This is nonsense when you were doing this. This isn't,
Right.
and I don't want people to understand that, especially like the younger generation. I remember because I was, I'm 52, so this was of my time. But you have a newer fan base, and I think it's even more groundbreaking to realize that this wasn't happening. This is something brand new. You weren't going to Hot Topic
Yeah.
buying your clothes.
It was funny. Like the first couple of times that KMFDM played actually concerts, like in venues, there was this one pretty, not, he wasn't famous, but he was very known around town here in Hamburg, Germany. And he wrote on occasion little blurbs in the sort of upcoming news and concerts, and he would always say, KMFDM, I add it again, don't go to shows of KMFDM. They are the worst band in the world. And of course,
awesome.
we totally loved that. It was like, yes,
That's the best advertisement.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And of course, people showed up like in droves going like, we have to see the worst band in the world. So
I have to at least say I saw it. Oh, that's awesome. Oh God, do you still have any flyers like that? That's so great. Oh,
I still have one of the press clippings. Yeah.
Oh, you got to share it up on your Instagram or something. That's awesome. That would be funny.
I will have to do that. Yeah.
I follow you, so
Actually,
you'll have to share it. That's awesome.
I did see it just the other day when I looked through a hard drive with archival stuff, and I was thinking, yeah, you should do something with that, but then
You
you know,
should.
like,
You
sure,
know,
I will.
right. So what's really cool is, I'll go back and forth on a few things. But one thing I want to talk about though is, first off, you have a new album out in 2022, Hyenas, which is fantastic. And you just did a tour, well, the end of it, of in North America in September and October, which is fantastic. You're touring because you tour America almost every other year or every year, depending on what's going on from the very beginning, which is also rare for bands from Europe to always come over and be able to do that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, well, we didn't tour America until we got invited by Ministry to open for them on their
Well, right.
1990 tour.
But since then,
But
you've
yeah, I
been
mean,
you're pretty prolific though.
immediately I relocated to the United States because, you know, I was like, hey, people love our stuff here, and what do I do at home to make money? I paint people's apartments, you know. So yeah, and then of course we opened for Ministry, and then the next year we started headlining our own tours and became pretty well known pretty quickly, actually.
You and Ministry
And
playing together is a good mixture too. That was a great introduction. That's the only time I came into really knowing who you guys were too around that time. It was a good introduction for me to learn who you guys were.
yeah, there was a crazy tour. I mean, it was probably, I would say, probably one of the top 10 crazy rock and roll tours the world has ever seen. And,
Yeah.
I mean, it offered pretty much everything from people being flambéed in their beds to, you know, a naked Al Jurgensen trying to cross the border from Canada back into the U.S. And I was like, all right, this is rock and roll. This is how
You don't get
goes.
more rock and roll than that. That is hilarious.
No, it's not much.
And the fan base is perfect for each other. It's a good crossover. I love the fact that, you know, still both bands I love to this day, you and me and Al's band. But yeah, from the very beginning, you still toured. But the fact you came over and toured now, though, let's face it, with Brexit happening over in Europe, and then now after COVID, but then also with the, you know, all the taxing and stuff coming over to the country, it's expensive for bands to come over. You know, and it prevents a lot of bands from coming over. You know, I tell people it's like $5 to $7 grand per person to file the paperwork for an artist. So that's not including crew. So if an artist comes to your town, you better go see them. They need, you know. So it's honorable you guys show up all the time like this and push through. Because
no, it's very true. I mean, it's become so expensive. I mean, I lived in the States overall for nearly 20 years, and you know, I'm familiar with like the price of, I don't know, stuff in the grocery store.
Right.
And you know, last time we were over there in the fall 22, I was just like shocked, man. Like a pack of cigarettes in Boston, they wanted $18 for a pack of smokes. You know, they used to be $2.50 not too long ago.
Yeah, things are kind of bananas right now. Yeah.
I know.
Yep, that is crazy. The prices. So yeah, so when you were here, you were living over in California though, right?
No, I lived in Chicago for about 6 years almost, in Seattle for about 11 years, and in New York City for about 2 years.
Oh, good. That's really getting a real taste of the culture too, because it's really moving around. I'm outside of New York. I'm in Connecticut, so I'm right between New York and Boston.
Right.
So it's a different
Connecticut
area.
is nice.
It is very nice.
I like Connecticut.
It's nice because there's city, but there's not too much city. You know, especially nowadays. I like woods and quiet.
Right.
You know, you're close enough to go to the shows, but not have to be around the city all the time. You know, that's the beauty.
Are you close to the water or inland?
Yeah, no, I'm close. About 45 minutes to an hour, which is pretty close around here. To a lot of water, not just here. I can go pretty close to hitting Rhode Island. Like there's a lot of different places I can go from where I'm located. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's great. Different beaches, you know, and different parks and stuff. You know, I love that. Did you miss that when you went back over to Germany? The differences in like something you get used to in the US, it's not in Germany, or vice versa?
You mean before I came to the US the first time?
Well, yeah, before you came, because you're in one place, you come to the US, and you're not getting stuff from home. But then you get used to the US stuff, and you go back to Germany. It must have been like you get used to one thing and it goes back and forth. The change.
Well, I mean, I was completely baffled by the variety of you know, the country, or whatever, the continent in and by itself. And before I came over, I've seen like kind of movies, American movies, and like some TV shows like Dynasty or Dallas or something.
Yeah.
And I thought, they're all like looking like fucking Larry Hagman, and they're all like fucking idiots and stuff.
The Ewings, yeah.
But man, I was in for a nice surprise. I fell in love with America like instantly. I mean, basically in the first week I was over there, I was just like, man, this place is fucking cool.
There are a lot of different rules here, at least. Obviously things have changed a lot, but there's a lot of diversity compared, choices are good.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, landing in Chicago was not the shittiest place to hit the ground running anyway. So we were like staying at the Wax Strikes record label.
Yep.
And got spoiled top to bottom from morning to night. Like the guys were like, "Hey, let's go to the show and let's get high, let's get some Thai food." It was all like, wow, all the shit that they have here. This is crazy good.
I can imagine it's totally different, like on a whole other planet for that, to do that. And as an artist,
Absolutely.
it must have been creative too for you, to be inspiring, I would think, to have all
It was
this new
totally
stuff.
Inspiring, yeah. I
You're
mean,
seeing topics.
just sitting on a tour bus, like at night and looking out the window, going like, wow, there's like no lights here for like an hour now. Where the
Yeah.
fuck are we? He asked the driver. He goes like, we're going through the desert. Okay, cool. And I stay up until it's daylight so I can see the desert for the first time in my life. That was kind of like the idea, the whole thing.
Yeah, that would be. I could imagine, like, for fresh eyes to come to see this, because you're used to it from here. I'm used to, growing up in
Of course.
all the different terrains, all the different choices, all the different excess. Which is
Someone in, I think it was somewhere in the south. I don't know whether it was in Texas or somewhere there. But late at night at a truck stop, I was talking to someone and they said, "You have a funny accent. Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Germany." He said, "Is that in Wisconsin?" I was like, "What is Wisconsin?"
The two of you.
I had no idea what he was talking about. And
well, there is a Paris, Texas, though, so the naming things get kind of crazy over here too.
oh yeah, I know.
That's pretty crazy.
Good times.
It is. So what's really interesting is, I want to say, so when you were touring, actually, so this new album came out, and it's the same lineup you had from your last album, from Paradise, which is also a really good album. And you had Andy's been your drummer for a very long time. He's fantastic, and obviously Lucia, but Andy Black Sugar there is newer to the ranks of your band. Great addition, great player. Did his playing change at all from that first album when he first started with you guys to the new one? Has things like the songwriting and the groove changed a little bit as you get to know each other better?
Well, the story with Andy Black Sugar is pretty funny. We were like touring with a band from Germany.
Yeah.
And did some European shows, and the plan was to take them with us over to the States. And the two guitarists in that band, they were going to play guitars for KMFDM, and then they ended up not getting their visas in time. And so I was facing, the fact that I had about 13 days left to go to the U.S. without an opening act, without guitarists.
Yeah.
And I called my friend Doug Wimbish, the bass player, also a Connecticut guy.
Yes, I was going to actually ask about that next.
I said, "Doug, I'm in a bit of a cinch here. I need a guitarist that is about as good as you are on the bass, and I need him in 2 weeks, and I need him for 5 weeks or something like that." And Doug said, "I have just the right guy for you." And he gave me a phone number, and I called up Andy Black Sugar, and I said, "La-di-da, I got your number from Doug Wimbish," and gave him the short, and he was like, "Yeah, I can do it. I got to find a cat sitter, but I can definitely do it."
So rock and roll.
And 2 weeks later, we met in Chicago at the airport, we had a couple of drinks in the hotel, and the next day a rehearsal was scheduled in a rehearsal place in Chicago. And the sound guy that had been recommended by a third party, um, he ended up not understanding how the mixing console worked.
Really?
So we spent a whole day in the rehearsal room with a guy that could not get not a sound out of the equipment. So the next day we were headlining the third day of the Chicago Cold Waves Festival, and we had never played anything together. We had nothing.
Holy moly.
So we did a sound check, and then a couple, 5, 6 hours later, we went on stage cold. Never had played together. And next day, Chicago Tribune wrote, KMFDM was definitely the highlight of a great weekend.
Oh, how nervous were you though
We were
after
like,
all these years? Oh,
it was just like so crazy, we were like sweating bullets on stage, but apparently nobody noticed. People were like fucking stage diving and crowd surfing, just
wow.
like in the old days. And
That's a testament to
wow.
your professionalism and Andy's skills to kind of come in and learn it. That's definitely what seasoned musicians helped.
Yeah, no, it was like that. I never thought it possible, but I mean, we pulled it off. And we're going to be playing at this Sick New World Festival in a couple of months. And Andy was like, "But this time we get to rehearse, right?" And I said, "Nah, we'll do it cold. We can do it."
That's
But you
crazy.
asked about Andy's playing. That's how we even got here. Well, I mean, in the meantime, one of the biggest things that happened is that Andy is now playing with Blondie.
Yep.
And so that makes us we have to rethink our schedules and really sort of time things, because obviously we don't want to get into each other's way.
Right.
But I don't know Andy long enough to be able to say whether his playing has changed much, but he's doing so much stuff. He's involved in a plethora of different projects and plays shows all the time with different people, and he's just
a lot of
one
bands
of
do
the
that
most
nowadays.
versatile.
That seems to be the world. That seems to be the world. A lot of young guitar players are very, very much in a lot of projects nowadays. It feels like it's the new model.
Yeah, he's totally out there, and he's so versatile. He can fit basically with anyone. He can play so many styles of music with such confidence. He's just amazing.
Well, I was actually just referring also to him coming in around the Paradise album up into the new album. And like as far as songwriting goes, and was there any like a difference in him coming on that album to this album? You know what I mean? As you know each other a little bit better. Hey, I have a better idea now that I know how we play live. I have a different idea now. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it changes your thoughts. Playing live and touring.
The thing is, like, mostly the seeds for songs are laid kind of down in my studio.
Right.
And then I pass things around to both Andy's and to Lucia. And whoever has any sort of thoughts about it puts something down. And, that's how things progress naturally, without really much pressure or anything. I never go, hey guys, write a song, just drums and guitar. But they do it anyways, Like Andy goes like, I got a new track here and it's fantastic, so let's record it.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool.
Same with drum Andy, he's got a hidden love for cheesy disco music and funk and stuff. So
there's drum Andy.
Yeah, drum Andy comes up with the craziest, coolest bass lines here and there. So, and sometimes I'm writing guitar riffs, so it's kind of all over the place. And as long as this sort of idea for a track kind of keeps moving, I think it's worth developing it. It's just when you get in a funk with it, then and you go like, I can't kind of carry on developing this, then usually it goes away and maybe it gets dug up a couple of years later, and oh, look at this, how cool is that? never knew what to do with it, but now I have an idea.
I imagine the drum Andy when Andy lecturer came in, he says, "This isn't going to work. You got to call you Andy number 2," or he gave him another name, right? The dominant Andy in the group.
We
Or,
call him the drum Andy and the guitar Andy.
oh, guitar. Okay. That's
That
great.
makes it simple.
That's pretty funny. So on Paradise, actually, in track 6, Piggy, that was my question. So the Doug Wimbish connection, where that came from? Because obviously, I think he's a great bass player. And I love, Live in Color. So I mean, so you had a relationship with him prior?
Doug and I have been friends since, I want to say, 1986. We, I was in some sort of cahoots with Adrian Sherwood, and he was doing sound for Mark Stewart and the Mafia and Tech Head.
Mm-hmm.
And every time Adrian Sherwood came to Hamburg, we just hooked up, and so we all got kind of close. And Adrian produced a couple of tracks for one of our earliest albums, and once a connection like that is made, you always kind of, I don't know, I hadn't spoken to Adrian maybe in 10 years, and then we bumped into each other in the lobby of a hotel in Tokyo. Hey, what are you doing here? Like crazy stuff,
The industry is very crazy like that. One of the things that's really great at this point with your band, this as long as it's been around now, you've got to be seeing different generations now, where somebody like coming in younger, like my kids are old enough to now come with me to go see you. That's gonna be really cool. First off, to begin with.
Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, I'm always amazed every time we're on the road in America. It's like this new, fresh kids,
Yeah,
and
it's awesome.
of course they heard from somewhere, that we're approachable, and and then people come up to me and go like, "Hey, I'm sorry to bother you, but I want to ask you a question." I'm like, "You don't bother me at all. I'm happy that you're here, and I'm glad to meet you, and tell me stuff." And so there was another thing that really baffled me when I first came to the States, was how condescending people or bands treated their fans. I mean, for me, it was always like, people that come to our shows are potential people that give us a place to sleep and maybe a warm meal even. So you don't treat them like shit,
Well, it's like a community that you're just in charge of, sort of. You're loosely in charge of this community.
Right.
By your music.
Right.
So have you noticed your fans are different? I'm sorry, the fans are more open though than most bands too, because you're so approachable though.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I see people that I've known for, God knows, since the early 90s, and now they're bringing their grandchildren.
God, that is so awesome though, as an artist, to see that. I mean, and then think back, like, if I told 20-year-old me this, they'd be like, "No way."
Right.
That's not been possible, right? To even think about that. Do you have fans of different generations now? They're like, do you have like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, for fans have certain songs that they love, even if it's a non-album single, just a deep cut that they love. Are you finding that new fans have the same deep cuts, or they have different favorites?
No, I mean, for example, there's a girl that is, I think, 15, and she is from somewhere in near Chicago, but on the Indiana side. And she said, "My mom and I wanted to come see your show in Chicago, but it's not all ages." I said, "Come to Milwaukee. It's just an hour further north. I'll put you on the guest list."
Nice.
She showed up. She brought us sort of comics of ourselves that she had drawn, like, sort of manga style comics.
Yeah.
And she keeps sending me emails every once a month or so, going like, "Man, I will never forget that great night, and I made some new drawings for you." And in the meantime, I bought the Godlike single. I was able to find it on vinyl in a used record store. And I'm like, this is so amazing. This is the best thing that can happen to a person like me that has been around in this sort of uh, business, whatever industry for 40 years to have
Yeah,
people that are super excited about shit that I put out, 30 years ago. And
yeah. Well, being relevant is nice as an artist.
yeah, oh, it's crazy good.
Do the
I'm so
fans all
happy
have the
when
same
I
songs though? I'm sorry. Do the
I'm
fans have
sorry.
the same like? But do you find fans have like same favorite songs though? Like the new fans have like the same favorite songs, or is it like they're coming with fresh eyes, going back to the catalog? Are they finding new songs that are their favorites, or are they finding the same
Well, I
songs that?
mean, it's like this. The sort of the fans from the '90s. They're all about angst and nihil. The
Yeah.
fans from the 2000s. They're all over MDFMK and Attack and World War III.
Oh yeah.
And the newer fans, they're all about Paradise and Hell Yeah and Our Time Will Come. And so it's I mean I feel the same way when on the rare occasion when I sit around and I think I put on some music. What kind of music do I put on? I put on music that I heard when I was a teen or something. Some
Yeah.
maybe T-Rex or Frank Zappa or you know
Hmm.
I'm not going to go listen to the newest industrial output from Los Angeles. You know what I mean?
Right. It's
So yeah,
I get it. I get it. I mean, so people like me who
people are
listen.
enthused. People are enthused with music that they discover, and whenever that is, and whatever that is, that kind of sticks with you, I guess.
Yes, and it's kind of hard for some bands to move forward. So the fact that you're in a spot where you have generations that are like layered, because a lot of rock bands from the 70s and 80s in America, the fans aren't letting them write anything new. And they want to write new music, but the fans are like, I just want to hear what I heard when I was in high school. And the bands are like, I'm an artist. I'm still playing music. I want to keep writing songs. And so where you're in a nice spot where you can keep writing songs and it doesn't matter.
Right. I mean, I'm sure there's people that say, the only thing that you can listen to is this and this album by KMFDM. Everything after that must have been shit,
God,
And that's fine. I mean, thankfully,
not everyone feels that way.
people, if you give 10 people a KMFDM album and you say which one's your favorite song, they will have a different song, each of them. You know, the one will say number one, the next one will say number two, the next one will say number three. That's just the way it is. It's the way it's always been, and it's just fine like that. I love it. I'm just really
So
grateful that I can afford to do what I love doing most, and that's coming up with crazy shit and people loving it. So hey,
do you
what
have
else
a
could you
favorite
want?
instrument? Do you have like a favorite synthesizer or guitar that you work on these songs with at home? Do you kind of pick up and play, or is it just
Well,
abstract?
right next to me is my old white pearl bass from 1983,
Hmm.
which set me back about $150 back in the day, and I grab it 100 times a day just to try something out, to figure out what note is this, what's going on here. So yeah, that's definitely my favorite instrument.
That's very cool. Let's say
Yeah.
you still do that. Last couple of questions I have for you. I love the fact that you've had, and if you actually look visually for people that are newer fans or old fans, like if you go on like an iTunes or something, it looks beautiful looking at the albums because you've had a consistent artist. So the art, everything looks very uniform. So as somebody who like has music on their phone, when I can't listen to, I have a record player too, but when I can't, play my record player in the car, it's nice to have it visually set up. And the artwork of
Right.
Aiden the artist you've had, Aiden Hughes, for all those albums, the output has consistently been as strong as the music. That is a great
Well,
relationship you guys.
it's basically as recognizable as Coca-Cola, So
Yeah,
if you look for KMFDM, you will definitely not miss it because it always looks like there it is.
it
And
definitely
that was
has a look.
a very important thing for me always because I obviously very early on realized or recognized the potential of having a brand identity. Um, so it wasn't for nothing that we stuck with Aiden through all these decades. because he is really a part of the band. You know, without him, recognizable, this sort of, you know, this iconic imagery wouldn't be there. You know, it was one of the best days in my life that I happened to run into him, or actually got introduced to him.
And you give him like a super creative space, right? When you say for an album cover, are you coming up saying, "Hey, here's what I'm thinking, go to town," or what?
Well, the way we work normally is he wants a title, so you know, and when I said hyena, the next day he sent me a couple of rough sketches of a hyena from various perspectives, doing various things that hyenas maybe do, and I was like, you know, it would be really cool to juxtapose it with like some really daft-looking woman that holds the hyena on a leash, like maybe a Russian oligarch's daughter would
Yeah.
keep a pet hyena or something like that. It's like, oh, great idea, you know? Boom, next day, more ideas. And so we kind of, you know,
Elaborate.
touch and go our way forward until we're both happy with it.
Well, I said I love those album covers. It's you guys are we're the perfect team, though. I mean, there's a few bands that have had the same artists that have been able to do that for years, and you guys are just, you know, got to be in the top 5 for doing that. So
Well,
you
thank you.
also do producing, I know, right? But you also do a lot of producing, though, right? Like your own stuff. Do you do a lot of other side work with it for people too, or is it just mostly within the band?
Do I do side work?
Well, yeah, like producing and stuff. Because I know you're in the studio a lot. Are you doing other work for other people too while you're doing band stuff?
Yeah, I do. I do the occasional stuff. I mean, right now I'm working on a project with vocals from the late Mary Wilson of the Supremes.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool,
that's really cool.
and that's a relatively big project. So, but yeah, I mean, you know, my day only has 25 hours too, so I really have to pick and choose what I want to do. And a lot of times people, not a lot of times, but occasionally someone asks me like, "Hey, would you do a remix for me? You know, I don't have much of a budget." And I always say, "Let me hear what you got." You know, and
Yeah,
because you can pay me $10,000. If I don't like it, then I don't want to work on it.
right.
And I do it for free if I love it and feel that I can, you know, not help out, but maybe give someone a little nudge in a good direction.
Hmm.
And so I think quite a bit of it is about sharing the good fortune that I had, you know, with my
Yep.
stuff, giving it back to people in a way.
Awesome. So the last thing is for the future of 223. What are we looking at for this moving forward with
Well,
you and the band?
I just tallied up the number of songs that I have in the making for an upcoming album, and it's 5. 5 is my lucky number. So yeah, we're going to be playing a couple of shows in May, West Coast, and this big festival in Vegas.
Yeah.
And then we're going to probably take the summer off because it gets just too hot in the studio because I'm directly under the roof. And you know, finish a new album in the fall.
And hopefully tour again.
Come back out in the spring of 2024.
Excellent. Well, this
That's
has been
already
really
being booked, actually.
Oh wow, oh, cool. This has been really great. I want to thank you for taking time and sharing it with me and the fans. It's appreciated.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. Absolutely, entirely. You know, without people like you, the word wouldn't get out. So, you know, we're all pulling on the same string, basically.
We are all lovers of music, and people, as usual with me, my spiel is look underneath the show where all the words are, and there will be links for all of the music, the Instagram, Facebook, the website, and anything else you have. I will send me links. I will post it up with this so people can go to it. And
Yeah,
also,
awesome.
don't forget, support the merch, support the artist merch right at the website. That's where the profit is. At clubs, they get taxed. When they come over to the US, they get double taxed. They get taxed from the US taxed, and then the clubs tax them. So if you buy it directly from the site, they actually get the money. So speaking the truth.
Well, some of it, you know.
Well, more than you get if you
I
come with
don't.
blood.
I don't like to tout the commercial aspect.
That's
of that
me.
kind of
That's
too
my
much, you
job.
know?
I'm a fan, and I want the artists to keep being successful. And the only way you guys keep being successful is if, you know, you guys get money, you can actually pay your bills and be allowed to be creative.
Thank you very much, Sean. I really appreciate that.
Well, that's how I feel. So you keep going, and talk to you another time. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.